This image is not just a blurred detail lost in the archives of the Kennedy case. It may be one of those visual fragments people prefer to downplay because it is simply too disturbing. Because if the identification of the window is correct, and if the film's chronology is accurate, then what we are looking at is not some harmless shadow. It is a very serious indication of a second human presence on the 6th floor of the Texas School Book Depository, only a few feet from the position attributed to the shooter. And that changes everything. For decades, the official narrative tried to confine the tragedy within a simple, clean, almost surgical framework. One man, one window, one rifle, 3 shots, and history would be settled. But this image disrupts that construction. It introduces unease, a crack, a question that cannot simply be brushed aside, because what seems to appear behind that neighboring window is not some meaningless visual accident. It is the possibility that at the very moment the world was about to change forever, the shooter may not have been alone on that floor. Of course, the objection will be that the image is blurry, that it is imperfect, that it does not allow for a facial identification. Fine, but an imperfect image is not therefore insignificant. In criminal investigations, as in major affairs of state, the most uncomfortable documents are often the ones that reveal the most. A poor quality image is not worth 0. A poor quality image, placed back in the right frame, in the right location, at the right moment, can become a warning signal, and that is precisely what this sequence appears to be, a warning signal. Because if this silhouette is in fact human, if it is indeed standing in the second window next to the one attributed to the alleged shooter just seconds before the assassination, then this is no longer a mere visual detail. It becomes an element that strikes head-on at the simplified version of events. It may not yet provide every name, every role, or the full mechanics of what happened, but it opens a breach. And once that breach is open, it becomes impossible to keep talking about this scene as though it were a perfectly understood closed case. What this image suggests is explosive, an action that may have involved 2 people in the very space where the image of a lone shooter was imposed. That is why this document is disturbing. That is why it deserves better than contempt or silence, because it raises the forbidden question. Was there, on the 6th floor, a second person in the immediate vicinity of the shooter at the decisive moment? And if the answer is yes, then this is not a minor detail. It is a shock wave. It is a direct challenge. It is proof that certain images, even dirty, shaky, and imperfect ones, can contain more truth than decades of repeated certainties. This silhouette may not yet amount to absolute proof, but it is already far too disturbing to be ignored. And sometimes, in the Kennedy case, it is not the absence of evidence that protects the official narrative. It is the habit of looking away at the exact moment an image finally begins to speak.